Every client that comes in has something they love. And so get out of your own ego and really get to know what they love. And never forget what they love. And every visit you talk a little bit about what they love. I never stop talking about what they love. Man, I'm telling you, people are so impressed by that.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to ChiroCast, the podcast by chiropractors for chiropractors. I'm Dr. Stephanie Brown.
And I'm Danielle Javines. We're so glad you're tuning in today because we're tackling a challenge every chiropractor faces at some point: how to get patients to stick to their wellness care plans.
Yeah, that's right. So it's one thing to recommend long-term care, but it's another to get that buy-in and build a lasting follow-through. So we're bringing in someone who has really mastered this at his own practice, Dr. Ron Sims of Back to Health Chiropractic.
Dr. Sims has built a thriving wellness-focused practice where patients actually complete the care plans he creates and they come back for more. So today he's sharing his approach, his tools, and some real-world examples that you can take back to your own clinic.
Yeah, so let's dive in. Ron, if you don't mind, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe start with why you became a chiropractor and what your practice was like when you first started.
Yes, gosh. Like most of us, I got injured playing sports in college, had never heard of the word chiropractic, and thankfully, the gym I was working out at had a lady chiropractor come in and do a spinal screening and check my spine out and put me on an old-fashioned machine called a SAM. It was a spinal analyzing machine. It showed how crooked I was, showed how uneven my weight was. I was like 15 pounds more on my left side. I was a wreck. And then she did these cool things called adjustments on me. I was so intrigued, and I went to work for her part-time just to get in the middle of that because I was thinking that maybe was the direction I would go in. I was pre-med, don't ask me why, but it was kind of through my own experience. So then I had a great associate ship down in Long Beach, California with Dr. Gregory Judd, amazing mentor, taught me so much about chiropractic, the philosophy, the art, the science, and really got to kind of learn early on in my career how to set up processes and systems so that I could be successful in helping people reach their health goals. And so that was kind of how it started. Then I moved to Northern California, where I was originally from, started my own practice as the primary lead doc. And that was in 1996. I'm dating myself here. So now I have 2 locations. I have 4 associates. I have an amazing team. And I work equal amounts of time on my practice as I do in it. So I've learned to create balance so I could be the leader that my practice needs them to be, and so that our practice can be vibrant, because I realize I can only help so many people with chiropractic. I physically am limited as a human being to only handle so much in a given week. And when I was doing that max load, I looked around and realized the impact on the community wasn't really what I had hoped it would have been, because one man can't do it all. And so that's when I began to figure out and be able to build a team. And now our community, we're able to help 2 communities now to a much greater scale than I ever could have as an individual practitioner by myself. So that's kind of been my journey, and it definitely ties into today's conversation. So I'll let you take it from there. But
yeah, I think there's a lot that we can unpack there. So let's just dig in. This is going to be kind of broad, but could you answer in a, succinct way, even though there's so much involved here, but how do you create a wellness plan that a patient follows?
Yeah, that's great. Well, in our practice, there are 2 phases of care that someone has to go through first before they slide into this wellness care. It's an often, for us, overutilized term. What does that really mean? Is that preventative care? Is that maintaining care? What does that really mean, I guess, is the first thing. And the second thing is, for us, most of our clients come in crisis. Not too many folks show up unless they move to my area and they had a great chiropractor where they came from, come into my office and say, hey, I'm here for wellness. Usually they come in with something they don't want, and they're hoping we can help them. And so it's really a challenge to take them from that over to this concept of wellness. And so what we're really good at, I think, is we have really good systems, really good communication strategies where we really kind of unpack that and reverse engineer that for people. And like we say in our practice, when we take on a new patient, we have to make sure that their goals meet what our exam findings might require. If there's a big disconnect between what they're expecting and what their goals are and what you think you can deliver on based on your exam, then you need to not go into a relationship there. That's incongruent. You're asking for trouble. You'll never get them to wellness. Now, for us, we often take them through a journey in how we educate on day 1 and 2. We don't adjust on day 1. So on day 1, it's all about discovery, curiosity. They're usually curious. There's even a lot of scarcity because we want to be authentic and transparent to tell them whether or not we can help them. We have to be more transparent and more upfront with them as chiropractors to say, yes, I can help you, but here's the degree to which I think I can, versus over-promising and under-delivering. That's why we lose people as well. And so then you start them off on, at least for us, an intensive protocol, but I always sell wellness care to them up front on day 2. And then I back off of that. And for me to accept them, they have to say yes to lifestyle chiropractic. Like what you ultimately need once you're through this crisis, once you've resolved this and corrected it, and you have a lifestyle built around it that helps it keep it under control, then you're going to move on to wellness care. And that's where you just continue to follow these principles and you maintain your wellness. That's how it works. So for us, it's 4 months of stabilization care, or we call it intensive care, getting them out of pain, getting them to where they can even do some exercises, then getting them to get great results at your re-exams. You got to do re-exams. They can't just be subjective table side. You got to stop and measure, stop and measure, stop and measure. That's the best way to keep people engaged to what their findings were, because if it's subjective, they're going to be a flight risk when the pain goes away. They're not tied to their condition anymore, and so on and so forth. So for us, it's that 4 months to calm them down, get them, start teaching them, start educating them. We do active care and corrective care, so we usually do another 12 months of corrective care because I feel like we're really good, but we can't correct an adult in 4 months that has a chronic spine condition from a computer lifestyle and old car accidents. We just can't. So we have to be authentic and we have to be real with them. And we have to tell them, look, this is a 16-month process to get to wellness care. Then it's a lifestyle. And so that's how we sell it. And we have a really good conversion rate because we do these, touch base points of objectivity. We use a subluxation station and then we re-x-ray periodically because we do corrective programs where we do modified pettibone and stuff like that. So we literally mean it when we say corrective care.
Got it. So you did mention something really important, I think, there, and that was your re-exams. And I know that was in the context of those first 4 months or the second phase of care as well. But once someone is beyond that and, let's say they are in that wellness plan or that wellness care plan, do you do re-exams on your actual wellness patients? And what does that look like? Because I think you are alluding to this, but it's important to keep educating them as well, even after they're already in wellness.
And a picture paints 1,000 words. So we do annual exams. We have lettering systems for them. R1 is kind of date, or is kind of report of findings, is the kind of commitment. R2 is time commitment. R3 is financial commitment. For us, R4 is the 4-month transition from the intensive phase they signed up for into that continued corrective phase. Key re-exam for us there. We actually sit down for 30 minutes with them after that re-exam and talk about where they were, where they are, talk about what are their next steps. We re-clarify goals often because they're better than they thought they would be. Then every 12 visits in our practice, and by the way, for us, wellness is once a week. For us, maintenance is twice a month. Some of my clients can only get every 2 weeks, but they're kind of a wellness person. So, those are loose terms that fit together in our practice, but we have titles for the type of care. Now, the other thing we do is we do these annual, more intensive exams where we would then do x-ray again. We do posture studies. We always do palpation, range of motion, and then we do EMG, thermal scans, and pulse wave profile. We have a person in our practice trained up. Some of you maybe can't afford an associate, but maybe what you should do is what we did, and that is train up a new patient concierge position that can handle these re-exams for you so that they don't pull you out of the adjustment area and you have to go from this to that. It's hard to go from clinical exam mode to adjustment mode. And so a new patient concierge does not have to be a chiropractor. You can train them really, really, really well, as we have. And my new patient concierge, people mistake her for being a chiropractor. She's like so smart and says all the right words. But anyway, it just helps you as a practitioner stay organized so you can stay in flow. But then it's important to go over the results of the re-exams and then also add a questionnaire with the re-exam. It's a great little thing. It's an unbelievable tool. And it could be, what level of subluxation did your x-ray show when you first came in? Or what are some things at home you need more help with? Or what could I explain better to you now that you're at this stage of care? And these questionnaires progress as they progress. So they get a little bit more forward thinking, and then I always review it. So I'll do the re-exam on visit 12. Then on visit 13, when you come in, I do a table side review at my computer where I pull up your scans and I go over the objective improvements. And in our practice, we only change care plan or weekly frequency based on objective improvement, not subjective improvement. We have to be objective. That's just the way our system's set up. So you only move to the next phase of care when your objective improvement is at a certain level. Now, often, objective and subjective are pretty close to each other, but not always. And so we have to be careful there. And so then these annual exams, we would go deeper. It'd be more of like when they first came in, it would be x-rays and maybe another layer of objectivity. And then that report is more private in the office, like day 2 would have been. Whereas the other along the way re-exams, we do a quick little cursory review table side. Hey, you're on track. You're doing great. Still an issue there. Still an issue there. I want you to tighten up your exercise there. I want you to start, we talked about the food and the inflammation you got going on there. Let's really work together this month to get to that next re-exam. And I'm excited because you're way better than you were. And so that kind of stuff. And then we just keep them engaged. I feel like chiropractors table talk gets so laissez-faire. And so these objective kind of benchmarks are so critical to keeping their left brain engaged. Because, every chiropractor on this call has those relationships that you're like, what happened to Mary? I thought we were BFFs. She told me all about the details of her relationship, her vacation, and you try to become Mary's friend and you stop being her chiropractor. I'm not saying don't be friendly, and there's going to be certain patients that you click with more than others. I get it. But
and you always want to build rapport with people too.
Yeah, get to know them.
You got to be careful.
100%.
I think as I'm listening, I think the common denominator here and what's working for your practice is patient education and patient engagement. You never want them to stop learning, but I also think humans we're visual. We want to see those improvements over time. So that constant reaffirmation from the chiropractor, how things are going, and what you're getting when you walk
That's
in.
Right.
And ideally, you want your patients to become evangelist patients. They believe in it.
Yeah, you're right. And by doing it the way we do it, they go from seekers. They're seeking chiropractic, like maybe this will help me. We get a lot of people in their mid-40s who've never been to a chiropractor. It's shocking. Young people are turning to it quicker, which I love. But, in that relationship is really understanding their love language and how they think. And then to take them from a seeker to a believer is usually rooted in results. So if I get good results, Danielle, you're going to believe in me, right? Okay. And now all of a sudden I think we miss a step. We expect her to be like an evangelist for me. And I haven't done enough to get you ready to be good at that. And so for us, it's table talk. We do a lot of workshops because we want to take them from believers to understanders so they can understand chiropractic now, and they can understand the role it has in their life, and they can understand the role that their own stresses have on their subluxation patterns. So we start taking them to a new place of intellectual understanding about how the body works. It's really fun, but that doesn't happen overnight. You can't change somebody that quickly. Paradigm shifting takes a while. You got to do it. You have to be thoughtful, and it ties into wellness plans. It really does. And so, then you take them from believer to understander. Then my favorite is, you can call it a couple things, advocator, influencer. So now not only are you somebody who believes in chiropractic, and I always try to downplay the person involved. Like our team, we're super transparent. Like, no, it's chiropractic that's made the difference and your body heals itself. Yeah, I think we're pretty good facilitators. I think we're good caregivers. But, we don't want to get out of order and get all puffy and get an ego chiropractic clinic going. So that's why I like multiple doctors, because, hey, you go see that one. I don't take it personal. And so anyway, then that advocator, they're fun because now they're better than I am out in public, because doctors tend to get all sciencey because in a way we have some insecurities rooted in, well, I want this person to know that I'm super smart. So when I'm talking out in public, I'm like, I'm Mr. Smart Guy, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas me, I just dumb it down. And my patients that are advocators, they speak in a language that people get, I don't know, I had this bone misplaced and it was affecting the nerve that went to my throat. And, it was, believe it or not, connected to my swallowing. It was really weird. Or that ringing in my ear. And he did a couple things and taught me some stuff, and it's just changed my life. That's all they got to say. And then they're going to go, who's that guy again? It may not be till 3 months later when they're doing yard work. And they're like, what was Bill's chiropractor he's raving about at dinner the other night? Mm-hmm. I think I need that guy, and that's how it kind of happens. But I feel like we get too friendly. We forget our mission. Our mission is to change our communities, not to make a bunch of buddies. And, again, we love our clients. You love your clients, but.
You mentioned too, I don't know, I think you might have said workshop, but I was curious, like, do you guys just have one? Do you have multiple different ones that people can come to? Is it required? To what extent do you really require it? Because I think that's one thing too chiropractors are afraid to do is require things, essentially. So, I mean, you're requiring people right out of the gate to understand, like, this is what we do here. And if you want to work with us, we want to work with you, and you lay it out so they have an understanding of what to expect. Sorry, side note, but I think that's really important too. Some, like, a chiro might tell somebody, you have this acute thing going on, 3 times a week for 3 weeks, twice a week for 2 weeks, once a week for 1 week or something, but they're not laying any foundation or groundwork for what happens after that. And then the patient becomes totally surprised when it's like, okay, here's the idea of maintenance or wellness. It just comes out of left field. So I think pre-framing that is important. But yeah, I wanted to get back to the workshops or whatever you guys call them and what that looks like in your office.
That's a great thing to talk about because, again, it all ties into wellness compliance, right? It's one thing to have, I want a wellness practice, but I want people who are compliant, who are showing up, they're paying, and they're referring. Why? Because you've been their Sherpa. You've been their guide. And that started on day one when you had that empathetic connection. And you actually did something quite remarkable that they're not used to. And that is you listened to them and you interviewed them and you took the time and didn't do it on the fly. And you onboarded them properly by educating them. We take their story in first, quickly, 3-5 minutes. Don't take any notes. Tell me your story. Why now? Why are you coming to the chiropractor today? Like, why not a month ago? Or why didn't you put it off longer? And then we get through that. And then we get to then I tell them briefly about who it is we are and what we're looking for in this day one process. And I feel like we don't pre-frame things enough. So I'll pre-frame how our visit's going to look to you. And I get your story first because I want you to know I care. And I've already toured you in my office and we do a Socratic tour. We always say we want you you're on a journey of 100 yeses. When you sign up for a new patient appointment, you said yes. You showed up. That was another yes. Then I toured you in every stop on the tour, my kids area, my active care area, my active seat area, my adjustment table area, my exam area, my report area, my wall of fame testimonial area. I hit every stop and explain to you what this is all about. And then I stop and go, do you hear me? Are you tracking? Because I want those yeses. Yes. Wow. They're excited. I know you worked on kids. That's crazy. Want to hear more about that later. Seed plant, seed plant, seed plant. And then I get into the back. I go, this is, we're going to spend our time together today. We're going to get to know your story. And then it's at that point, I'm going to say, why now? And then it's at that point, I'm going to say, what type of chiropractic were you under? Was it only for crisis? Were you on wellness? So I really want to know, just because it was chiro, does it mean it's the same as your office? No, maybe not. If you don't ask that question, I mean, that's a low hanging fruit question. And then I'll always edify referrals, man. People don't do that enough. I got referred to a new biological endodontist, and when I walked into their office on this cool sign, it was really neat. It was in a beautiful area, and it had my name, like big, like welcome, Ron. I never met him yet. I was like, wow, that was really a cool touch. It wasn't a HIPAA violation.
People love seeing their name on the board, wherever it is.
Oh, they love it. It's like somebody cares.
You're like, oh my God, that was me.
So our day one, our day two, then day two's report. Then the mandatory thing is They do a better results faster workshop on visit 3 that we pre-tape. It's a 15-minute video, so they
Okay.
have to watch it. Like you can't come in. Sorry. Yeah.
Built in. It's built into their care.
Do they watch
Yeah.
it in the office or do you send it to them or?
They watch it in the office on visit 3.
Okay, so
Because
that's part of their visit, though. You're not asking them to, at least for this one, to come in at 7:00 on their
we
only
do
night off
one
during the week.
live a month, and
Yeah.
we like that as it relates to educating a bigger crowd of people. We'll bring food in, and we'll do a big one a month for each office.
Sure.
Because it serves a lot of purposes for us. Fun, people want to get out and have a free meal. And I go, invite your friends and family, people that are in your group that you think would benefit from hearing information about health and wellness and staying injury free. And who doesn't want to know more about that? And then the other thing for me in that is it's just better. But the ones that are the type A person, we make them watch a video.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's quick. And then we ask questions at the end and we have a quiz. So they take a little quiz. Then they visit 3. They set up all their appointments. We map people out. And if you're not mapping people out, you're not going to have a wellness practice. You got to map people out. ChiroTouch makes it super easy to set up your mapping and your care plans. There's multiple ways to do that within the software. And we leverage that on the cloud quite effectively. But back to that workshop, we also do advanced workshops. We've pre-taped a lot of them because we do a lot of move well, eat well, think well, biohacking. We're pretty straight principle chiropractors that believe in teaching people about lifestyle because we know that's why they're subluxating their spine. So we need to come alongside them and say, look, you're the problem. Not that little car crash you got in. You were a train wreck going into that, and that's why it had such a big impact on you. And so it's important we teach them all these in these steps because once they start feeling better, they're going to lose sight of that. And by the way, when they first come in, we always say that it's the elephant you're talking to, not the rider. But down the road, you're talking to the rider. The elephant's emotional. I'm in pain. I'm hurting. It's not the time to give them a dissertation on their x-rays. Do you go over them? Yeah, high level. Do you explain to him you can help him? Yeah, high level. Now, if you got a left brain engineer and he wants all that, then you let him have a little bit more than the next guy. But on the average client, don't overwhelm them. Just tell them you can help them and lay out that. Spend most of your conversation on what you're going to do for them. And I explain every visit to you. Here's what your normal visit's going to look like. It's 3 to 5 minutes is all. We believe in the power that made the body can heal the body. I'm going to remove interference. Your body's going to do the rest. And we're not going to over-treat you. We're going to often the less we could do, the better. And so we explain that very clear to them. This is how you check in. Then we're going to do these re-exams, and this is what that looks like. Then we're going to have these reports. We sit down with you. Then as you get better, you're going to do more, and you're going to come in less. And we're going to do this together. There's a certain for you part you can't do for yourself, but there's a certain part we can't do for you. And so this teamwork makes a dream work approach is what's going to get you through the first 4 months. At the end of that 4 months, we're going to do a really, really detailed exam again. We're going to compare you to day 1. So I guess my question to you is, if you chose to do nothing about this today, and again, this is day 2 and day 37, these key transition appointments. If you chose to discontinue care or if you chose not to start care, based on our conversation and what you just learned today, what do you think is going to happen to your underlying spinal condition?
There's only one answer to that.
Yeah. What would you say? What do you hear when you were practicing a lot? What were you hearing?
Yeah, they'll say it's not going to get better or it's going to get worse.
Yeah. How many chiros ask that question? And then the next question after that, if you say, well, gosh, it would get worse, then I'm going to go, well, is that what you want? And they're going to go, no. And I go, okay, well, I think we should start right away. I'm not a procrastinator. I think it's time to get going. It's been long enough. So I'm going to have Sandy come back. She's going to explain the ins and outs of our care plan, how the finance works, how the schedule works. I need your commitment because I'm 100% in. I need your mindset. I need your schedule, and we don't work for free. So she'll talk to you about that. But we provide a great value, and we could charge way more than we do. But, I don't say that necessarily, but I'm just saying in general, that's my mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, let's touch on that. I know as you were talking, you talked about mapping out the care plan, and it made me start thinking about, are there DCs that unintentionally create care plans that maybe are too complicated or they're unclear to the patient, could cause roadblocks for that patient or the financial aspect. So what do you do? What do you avoid when you're presenting a care plan?
Yeah, and I think, gosh, how well you do day 37 care plan when they're done with the first 4 in my practice, how well we do our annuals. Oh man, day 2 and those key appointments, how well you do those, how you do them Socratically, how you get buy-in, and then those key appointment conversations of, if I'm only with you for 5 minutes, it might be a little bit about, man, the Raiders made a bad draft pick or whatever, I agree. Then I immediately go to talk and tell. I talk about their spine. I talk about different symptoms that might create. Hey, you're subluxated here at T6. Has your stomach been bothering you lately? That kind of stuff. So I work through explaining chiropractic every patient. I don't care if you've been with me for 30 years. Your C2's off today. You've been having trouble with your spine. Every visit, every day, high volume for years I've done that. And I always end it with coaching. Every visit, a leadership moment. Instead of like expecting your girls to have all the plates in the air up there. Because I'll look on ChiroTouch. It's so easy on the cloud. Click on their name. Boom, there's all their appointments. You click on futures and past. If I see less than 4 futures, I'm not happy as a boss. Like our next training, or it's a patient problem, and the front desk goes, this guy's so he's so nice to you up there, but up here he's like, I'll call you, So then, now that I know that, I provide an extra level of leadership. How often do you do, chiropractors, triangular conversations in front of your staff and the client at the same time? So key. No spilt crumbs. Because if I'm talking to Danielle about you, Doc, about what you need in front of you. Hey, I want her to come in 3 times a week. We're going to do a re-exam on the 12th. We'll do a table side on the 13th. Let's set those up for now. Or that's going to be the first, and then we'll go to twice a week if you respond how I expect you to go. And then at visit 30, we're going to do a re-exam every 12 visits. And then on visit 36, we're going to shoot some new picks. So it's really important that you follow through on the active care, because that's going to dramatically impact your corrective results on your x-ray. And so anyway, all these nuances in there, we get so laissez-faire just on the given visits, like cap it with leadership, walk to the front. You can sense a flight risk.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing way better. Yeah, they're getting ready to go on vacation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't fly away on their own. This happens, right? And they feel better. You did a great job, So you go to the front. Hey, we're transitioning into a critical and dangerous stage of care, Danielle, because you're feeling so much better. And I'm worried about you overdoing it because I know how your personality is. So I want you to remember where you were a month ago. Okay, so that's the first thing, is critical and dangerous, because you're going to overdo it. Don't overdo it. Let's remember where you were. Secondly, is you're going to be more likely to miss an appointment here and there, and that's going to set you back. Just because you're feeling amazing doesn't mean you resolve the underlying condition. The iceberg's still there. We just helped you get it below water so you're not really as disabled as you were 2 months ago. Are you with me on this? Always end with are you with me?
It's disarming.
Close to your patient. You're close to them already. Are we on the same page? Do you have questions for me? Are you getting ready to stop care? I said that to a guy the other day.
That's funny.
He's like, no, I'm not. I promise. I'm like, don't, man.
I think that's necessary.
But the wellness plans are great. Ours, let's just use an example once a week. So we have 3 menu options, because we also do health coaching in our practice. If you're a practice out there and you're like, gosh, I want to coach them up so much more per visit, but then I got to charge more and I might price myself out of the market, or I can't spend more time with them. So we created these health coaching visits for those that need that extra level of guidance. So we do our top tier plan. We have a hyperbaric chamber too, and we have long axis traction. So you get 4 adjustments a month. You get 2 long axis kind of preventative traction sessions a month. You get 1 hour of health coaching with me a month on Zoom, or on a HIPAA compliant one, actually. Doxy.me. I wonder, do you guys have one built into the cloud? I meant to ask that, but we can talk about that later. But anyway, then the other thing we offer is we also offer, that was it. Yeah. Oh, and just kind of the rules of engagement are they have to be on auto debit and they have to be mapped out. For their exams, the whole year, we map it out 12 months at a time. 6 months minimum, because we have a stat in our practice that will haunt you as a practitioner, and that is you should be 80% future scheduled visits 1 month out. So if I look a month from Monday, our team checked out 200 on Monday. So that's kind of our average. So in a month from Monday, we better have 160 on the books already. And I looked this morning, we have 130. And we have a staff training tomorrow. So guess what's going to come up top of the list is, hey, mapping. Because it just you get busy and you look and go, oh, I didn't map this person out. And that's how people slip through the cracks. They're feeling better.
You have to
They don't
chase
get an
them.
appointment reminder by text.
Yeah.
And a week goes
Also-
by, 2 weeks go by. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're on auto debit, it's not like they're doing the let me stop at the desk every time I leave kind of thing. So, yeah, that's something like if you're going to have a practice like this, you have to have those systems in place to make sure that your staff or whoever's job it's going to be is watching to make sure that you're not like if someone's approaching the end of their future scheduled appointments, like at what point are you guys noticing that and then scheduling more or
Right.
whatever the next step
Auto
is gonna
debit
be, like,
continues whether
who's
you're
watching?
coming into
Well, and
that.
that's the other thing. We have a built-in system that we've created to watch for those credit balances because next thing you know, John moved away and you have a $400 credit that you got to write a check to John.
Yep.
And too many chiropractors are taking prepayments and they're using that to pay their overhead and their life. And they're not putting it in an escrow account. What we do in our practice, we never accept more than 1 month of payment at once. It just keeps the credit ledger list manageable for those that slip. You know, some people just vanish, right?
Yeah.
We're like, where'd they go? They were doing great.
Yeah.
And they just high flake factor and you did the best job you could. And they said all the things that they should have said. And it just seemed like it was off to a great start. Then find out later, they were just so amazed at the results and they just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how they roll with their life, you know, and you just happen to collide with them and you did your best. But now they're on auto debit and they got a $400 credit and they want that. And your team's like, well, you could keep that as a credit, you know, and start coming back in. But it doesn't always work. And then sometimes the doctor's got to call and, did I let you down? What's going on? Those awkward calls. But I have some chiros, they get like 2,000-3,000 at once. And so are they taking 1,800 of that and putting that in an escrow account and not touching it and only drawing upon that when the visits are rendered? Which is a system you can set up. That's how you do it because then
that's required in some states too. And a lot of people don't even think about what their state laws are or bother checking into it. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So for us, we try to keep that list low, but we'll give people discounts if we disincentivize people from paying as they go. So we always have some sort of package or plan for them.
Mm-hmm.
But and by the way, for them to get health coaching, hyperbaric treatment, all those modalities in my office as one-offs, they're saving dramatically. But they're not saving on the chiropractic side. We don't discount our chiropractic care, but we have two price levels, adult and senior citizen. And we throw a lot of people, families, like if you're coming in, your husband, we would just put them on the senior rate to make your family work better. But we don't, in California, we do some insurance billing, and to be compliant with the insurance laws, every cash rate you have needs to have a billing code attached to it. So for instance, 98941, whatever you charge for that could be tied to your cash rate. You can only discount them a set amount, and you have to do it for each of them if you do insurance billing. So don't be out of compliance with that for sure. So two big pitfalls people get into is huge auto debit balance of money coming in, or taking too big of prepays up front, and then missing out on helping people with just insurance details, things like that.
Yeah,
Well,
that's huge.
let's talk about that. I think some people think they put wellness in a separate box from insurance patients, but there are lots of offices out there where your patients, they want to use their insurance and they want to become a wellness patient. How do you navigate that year over year when insurance resets?
Well, technically, most insurances are for crisis care, so they're going to give you limited visit offering. Obviously, Medicare, you're not supposed to do maintenance care, but most Medicare people have chronic symptomatology, so it's not really an issue. But but as far as just regular insurance, what we do in the report of findings on day 2 is we hopefully know all that by then. Sometimes you don't, unfortunately, and we're not a big biller. We're out of network with most, but we'll do like Veterans Administration, Medicare. Again, some PPOs out of state are great. We do personal injury med pay, things like that. But even within all that, on a cash patient, or maybe it's a hybrid of maybe you get 10 visits a year and you have a $30 copay, but I laid out a program for you that's, maybe the first year it's, let's just call it 52 visits the first year. So we'll explain it to you on paper, like, hey, you got 20 or 10 at a $30 copay, and then you've got these 42 at our cash rate, and you just lay that out for them up front so they know. Sometimes the problem with insurance is sometimes you don't know the nuances until you get the explanation of benefits back, right?
Yeah.
Because every carrier is going to have an allowed amount, and like PI is a good example. No two PI med payment schedules are the same.
No.
Every carrier seems to have their own reduction schedule, allowed amount. So, so I think within that, it's hard to sometimes get these care plans just right, but at least give them an idea up front, like, hey, you need more than your insurance is going to cover.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if they came in December, and it kind of sets up nice for them to get 20, if it's a calendar year program, then all of a sudden they get 20 visits in the next 2 months. So sometimes they get lucky, and that covers the more intensive part of their relationship with you versus, and then, going forward for that individual, you could kind of have them on a wellness schedule or a maintenance schedule, which would be 26 visits a year. And let's say their insurance covered 20. So now they're going, yeah, year over year, now that I paid my dues and I'm on this level of care, I'm only having to come out of pocket for 6 a year kind of thing. So I think it's good to kind of be able to, if you have a hybrid practice where you're not pure cash or pure insurance, that's kind of how we've done it, and it works pretty well. Sometimes you get math is off and EOBs are off, and you get patient owes money or you owe money. Just got to explain that to them up front, expectations and agreements, things like that.
I think they appreciate the effort too when you show them on paper, like, this is what we think we can tell from your insurance. This is what we think is going to happen. And I think that they all, because nobody trusts their health insurance company anyways, they understand when it comes back on paper, if it was different, like, you still did the best you could.
Right.
But Danielle, to address your question, if someone has health insurance and they're like, I want to use this, but I have no complaint, I'm coming in for wellness care or whatever. I mean, I have done this in the past and I have them all. Like, if I'm in network with that insurance company, I have printed out their actual like chiropractic policy, and I will show it to the patient, because it will say, like, we only cover this. This is what that means. We define maintenance as X, and we don't cover maintenance, like, in the insurance company's own words. As soon as I show people that, like, that helps it click a little bit better. And we'll have that conversation, like, when they come in, they have a cute thing going on or whatever, that's what your insurance is going to help you for. But once they see that you've, gotten better to their definition, then they're out at that point. And here's where they are explaining that to you. And so I have literally done that. I have them all saved. I used to have them printed out on paper when I practiced full time. And it would blow people's minds too, especially the way the Medicare one is worded. It's wild, because it's like, God, I wish I had it in front of me, but it just says something like, we don't pay for care that seeks to improve health and stuff like that. And it's like, the way they have it written, it's like exactly what the patient wants. And Medicare is like, nope, we don't do that. So I have found that helps people understand over time. And you could just Google some of these things sometimes, and it's publicly available, like on the website of different companies and whatnot. So you don't always have to be in network or, be logged in or whatever. Sometimes you can Google these things and you can just find them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, because I know there's got to be, hundreds of thousands of patients that are, oh, my plan covers chiropractic. Well, what does that mean? They're not looking into it. All in their mind, no, it covers chiropractic. No, it covers an acute issue. And once that acute issue has resolved, they're out. Insurance is out and you're on your own. So I think, explaining that up front, that's incredible. But that also ties into my question of the financial aspect. Because I imagine there are patients out there, they see the value, they understand the value, but there's budget constraints. How do we navigate that?
Can I just share a story really quick?
Always.
I had a patient once came in to see me, and I was in the office by myself, so there was no one else around. I had no backup, and regular established patient. I was in network with her insurance, but she said to me like, "Hey, Dr. Stephanie." I mean, she had like a $20 copay, and she was like, "Can I catch up next time?" And I was like, "That's fine. I don't care." I knew she was coming in. People will forget their wallets, and this is before I did any like auto debit and stuff. So it's not a big deal by and large. But like on her way out after her appointment, I was like, "Oh, what are you doing the rest of today?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm going," like she was literally going to get her nails done with her, like this was an adult woman bringing like her elderly mom to like go get their nails done. And like okay, so you value paying to get your nails done, but you don't value me, the office, or the service that you're getting here. And like in those moments, like I was like, "Oh, that patient, who does she think she is?" Which is kind of true. But more so, I was like, "Okay, what am I doing wrong?" But it's like, how are your nails more important than paying to get adjusted? And so it aligns, to what Rana said. A lot of what they're doing, I think, it forces people to look at their own values and their own value system and determine what's really important to them. And I have experienced this over time. Like, if somebody really values or wants to pay for something, like they will find a way. We had another family one time that you could tell, and there were other things going on where they were not of high financial means at all whatsoever. And my employer at the time struck a good deal with them. So we were like within the guardrails of what we're allowed to do in our state and whatnot. But I mean, they used to bring in like fresh fruits and vegetables from their garden just to try to like, it was like that exchange of energy and like assets, kind of like they felt like, I mean, and they were amazing tomatoes, but like they would just bring stuff in for us like that. And they so appreciated the care that they were getting. But then you have somebody who would rather pay to go get her nails done. Like which patient do you want?
Yeah.
I don't
Like
know.
pouring your energy into. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's something people need to hear.
I feel like it's a way easier like plan to explain to somebody when you are only asking them to pay monthly.
Right.
Like you're not asking them to drop down $2,000 for the entire year all at once. And
Right.
I feel like that makes it harder. I feel like smaller it's just more digestible for most people probably.
Yeah, and you have to create the value. You have to maintain the value. You have to keep your mindset on the pulse of how that patient's presenting to you, their body language. Everybody, receives education differently. So the style at which you got to educate patient on table one is far different than the guy on table two. So being able to understand the nuances of human behavior. My team is trained now to give me a heads up on new patients, like, hey, this lady more fits this personality profile. So when I come in guns a-blazing on a type A person, I got to tone that back down and change, try to match the patient's tone best you can. There's a nuance there. And the longer you do chiropractic, the more you kind of learn. The other thing too, I think for me is a lot of people forget to go back to the life effect of what the condition that brought them to you in the first place. How is it affecting them? We always say 4 agreements. You have to have 4 agreements with the client. One is we have to agree on what your problem is. Like if you're minimizing your problem, I have no interest in being your chiropractor. I can't do anything for you.
Right.
Secondly, if, is that a maximizer? Are they somebody who milks it or whatever? You just kind of know. But are we in agreement of the problem is not the symptom, it's the list of things that you're not able to do in your life that are meaningful to you? And so that's where we spend a lot of our time as a team, is finding out their why. Everybody's got a list of whys, right? Some rated higher than others. Like, God, I love to travel, but I can't do it. I can't sit in a plane, or I can't do this. My shoulder with the luggage, fill in the blank. And so figuring out their why. It's gardening, it's sports, it's passion projects of knitting and painting or whatever. Every client that comes in has something they love. And so get out of your own ego and really get to know what they love. And never forget what they love. And every visit you talk a little bit about what they love. I never stop talking about what they love. Whether it be an acute patient in month 2 that's doing way better, I'm like, woo, you might be pitching and putting in 2 weeks, that kind of stuff. It's real stuff. Or, hey, it's springtime. It's time I know you want to turn that garden, so be careful. Make sure you ice and you drink your, sea salt water, and make sure you get your electrolytes, and you're going to be out in the sun. Man, I'm telling you, people are so impressed by that.
Mm.
You're not doing it to impress them, but I'm impressed by that when I'm in a healthcare office. I love that
Yeah.
attention, and it's not phony. It's genuine. It's rooted in care and empathy. It's rooted in what brought them to you in the first place, their goals, their life effect. Most people's goals are, I want to play golf by June, or I want to be able to dance at my daughter's wedding. It's simple stuff,
Mhm.
right? It's not like I'm going to do the Boston Marathon. There's those people too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
getting to know their why and never forgetting their why and their passions, and helping them get to some of those passions again, and celebrating with them when they get there. Throw a party, give them a book, give them a gift card, give them a phone call. Man, it's amazing how amazing a phone call is, or even a text nowadays of, "Hey, it was so good to see you today. I'm so proud of you from where you were a year ago, and I just wanted you to know, that our office thinks really highly of you, and we're very proud of the journey you've been on, and you've been a real example to your children." Boom. How hard was
Mhm.
that? I do that stuff every day. I personally recall certain people that I'm like, "Where's Bev?" We'll kind of find out Bev slipped into hospice care, darn it. But I'm glad I called, because her son was like, "Thank you so much for calling. She was asking about you yesterday." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, poor Bev." 92
Yeah.
though. She had a great run, and chiropractic was a big part of her success story. I
Mhm.
have pictures of her on my wall on my slideshows, and when I met her, she was in a walker, and she didn't bring it out until like a year ago. She was off that walker for 12 years, man. We actually put it on our wall, and I mounted it to my wall. It says
Oh,
not needed anymore. But
That's awesome.
how deep are you getting in, and how organized? You got to be organized, and you got to have meetings with your team, and you got to get all these plans in order, and present your paperwork clean and nice, and not haphazard, and like our stuff. You
On
have a
that
nice.
note, what do you give the patients, whether it's like care plan or
Yep,
patient education type stuff? Like, do they physically get stuff that they leave the office with ever?
absolutely. We will give them a printout of their core score, which is on our subluxation station, the 3 tests.
Mhm.
They get a summary page of our care plan recommendations. They get a nice little robust package of do's and don'ts, and just things we want them to consider about nutrition and sitting, just everything, A through Z, kind of back care that we produce. This nice little flyer. And then they get the care plan they just signed up for. So their little folder has our logo on it, and it's got all their stuff in it. It's so cool. It's cute when some of these people bring them back in, on their re-exam, because they're so organized. And I always applaud them when they do. "Oh, good, you brought your folder. I love it."
People love stuff. Yeah, I'm that patient. Like when I get to walk out with a folder full of tangible papers that I
Yes,
can write on, I can highlight, I can document, my heart is happy.
that's awesome.
Um, versus, being fed all of this information verbally and then trying to retain that myself. It's difficult, but that's just me. I'm sure there are people out there that can retain information.
Here,
Um,
here's a
which was
nugget.
I
You
was
made me think of
actually
this. You made me think of this, Danielle, because this is a nugget for you guys. Is I have the spouse present at all key visits, no matter
okay.
what. Like on day 2, we're not doing day 2 until we get it set up with the husband, or it's a FaceTime call, right? Why? Because I want him to know what you're going through, and I want her to know how to help you. It's 2 different conversations, the wife versus the husband. So
Mhm.
it's
Right.
really important that you have your wife there. I really want her to understand what's going on, so she can be more of help at home with you and understand. I don't want you to have to go home and try to translate all this to her. And
Mhm.
then sometimes the type A women will be like, "I don't want him in my appointment. He's going to annoy me." And no, I got my own checkbook. I don't need his help. So you still try, because you err on
Right.
the side of, I want them to know what you're going through. I want them to see your findings. I don't want you to have to go home and try to explain this. And it's so important. You know how many times I've done a report of findings with a lady in particular, and men too, but more women. Okay, well, I got to go home and talk to John about it. Da, 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 da. And now John's going, "Wait, he wants how much money? And what's a subluxation, a submarine? What are you talking about? And
Yeah.
spinal disease and what?" Versus if, so there's 2 different husbands, right? The one at home has the checkbook, whatever that, or the debit card. And then the one that comes to the appointment is the knight in shining armor. He has an arm around her. Wow, babe, this is serious. You really need this. The guy at home's like, what? And so my juniorist associate has struggled with this one, and he's finally mastered it because he kept forgetting to walk up and say, and our staff's trained to do it too, but for some reason they forget this principle, and we'll get these ROFs when the spouse isn't there. Not, I'm usually like, we're training on that tomorrow, wartime training. But it's so important that you have people, that they have support. Workshops, bring support with you. Health is better. Our family policy is basically, we have found that families that are under wellness care together are way healthier individually going through this as a group than they would ever be if they did it isolated by themselves. Hands down.
Yeah.
So we start early on family policy. You got to get the whole family checked. We got to get your kids checked. Your husband needs care. We got to get you guys in the same rhythm. And it works really well. And it's true. It's needed. So.
Ooh, question on that. Okay, so that just brought up, when you have family plans like that, I imagine it's easier for the family to adhere to wellness plans when it includes everybody. But what about the kids that are on a different phase of care? Like, I know maybe the adult's on 3 times a week versus, a 2 time. Like, how do you navigate? Is everybody on the same care plan where they're
No,
coming
that's a
in?
great question. But for us, with kids, it's going to be a far less frequent. They respond so well to chiropractic. They resolve so much quicker than the average person. And so there's that. With babies, we'll do weekly checks for the first 2 to 3 weeks, then every other for 2 to 3, and then monthly for 2 to 3. Usually with kids, because they're so active and they're all developing humps in their back now. So we're in a whole new generation. So we got to watch this generation even closer than the last, I think, as far as neurological development, especially if you pair that with all the other stuff their poor little body's got to deal with the, we won't go into the other reasons, but there's a lot, right? All the forever chemicals in our society that our kids are exposed to, but then the blue light and the technology and the EMFs, and where do you stop, right?
Stress. Yeah.
But anyway, I think we need to check kids more. If you're not checking kids, man, you gotta get deep in your philosophy and figure out why would you check a kid. And if your why is big enough, then get after it and quit being intimidated by the conversation. I feel like chiropractors are intimidated by the pediatric conversation because they lack their own conviction and their own belief in chiropractic, which I think sometimes is forged over time. Some people get it right away because their story is so profound, but it takes a while for chiropractors to get their philosophy dialed in. It takes coaching. It takes encounters with other chiropractors. I don't know. I just feel sorry for some of these chiropractors that post online how bad things are going. And I just want to hug them and teach them and mentor them.
Well, I think more often than not, these days, you're going to have the kids are going to be there with their parents anyway. They're tagging along to these appointments.
Yeah.
Why not get them on the schedule? It can't hurt. It really can't. And I mean, I imagine there are offices out there that they do shy away from seeing the pediatric patients, but those are patients that they're right there, they're readily available, and they need the care just as the adults do.
We check our newborns as a courtesy for the first year of their life. If their mommy was under care during her pregnancy and prior even. So we just kind of tell them during pregnancy, when little one's here, we're just going to check because we're going to keep checking you. But we definitely want to check baby on a regular, and we teach them little home exercises, and it's super fun. We just posted a video on social about that, and it's just so fun. And we get a lot of questions about, wow, you work on kids. Why would a kid need? People have it in their head that chiropractors help back pain. And so I think that's why they would ask the question, like, why kids? But back to your question about wellness care. So a typical family for me would be, hey, husband's weekly. He's a home builder. Wife is twice a month. And then the 2 kids come in once a month. And we have them on an auto debit accordingly. And we actually have our normal adult price. We have our senior price. And then I have 1/3 price that I have done historically. I have a huge family. So I do it for my family members, that all my cousins and whatnot that want to come in. I can't treat everybody for free. because you got a free practice, great, but you got no room for people that want to pay you because you're filling up your schedule with free, all your family coming in. So I made
Start a
there be some
nonprofit.
skin in the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's a good example of a family plan. So they're basically getting 8 visits a month as a family. It's probably costing them, less than $400 a month, probably $300 a month-ish. And the dad's getting the care he needs to stay in the game as a builder. The mom's getting the care she needs to stay functional as a stay-at-home, working part-time stay-at-home mom. And then the kids are developing so fast. And, kids fall 4,000 times before they turn 7. So we're checking for
Yeah.
patterns, checking for their feet, their back, their spine, their sutures. There's some basic pediatric protocol programs out there. You don't have to go full Webster and full PEDS diplomat program. You can go do some really good seminars on how to get comfortable with babies.
So I was just going to bring that up too, because for me, that was one of my barriers. I didn't feel like I knew how to adjust kids. And I took our pediatric courses in school, and they just don't, it's not like there's kids in there to adjust and stuff. And I didn't feel like it was very thorough. So I did go do the courses with the ICPA. I did get fully certified. That's because I wanted to.
Yeah.
But for anybody listening, if you want to start seeing kids, first of all, I would beg you to learn how first, because they're not just mini adults. But I mean, even with the ICPA, you can read through the website and you could find the courses that are specific to adjusting, for example. And I'm sure there's other organizations and courses. But so there's opportunities to go learn so that you are comfortable with kids. If that is one of your perceived barriers, if somebody wants to start doing that, but is nervous because they, especially I find, and I think I felt this way too. I mean, I still don't have kids, but I was also intimidated by taking care of babies because I don't know how to hold one or pick them up, how do you even
you
pick
never
up
had
a
a baby,
baby?
how do you know, right?
Yeah. So going to get some extra training really helped me back in the day. That was 10 or 12 years ago now. But those are great opportunities to add, tools to your toolbox and maybe open that door so that people are comfortable taking care of infants and other kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, it can only expand your wellness plan capabilities. The more folks that feel included and that they can be part of it, the adherence is built in. It's natural.
Yeah. I love it.
That's, what? I actually had one other question for you, Dr. Ron. You mentioned getting to know your patients. It's more intimate. How do you stay on top of the nuances with your patient where, you have an elderly patient and maybe her her dog's name? How do you stay on top of that visit after visit with understanding each individual patient?
Well, gosh, great leadway into utilizing your practice software, right? For me, the note section, we have an open line practice, so we share clients, so it's critical for that. But what adjustment techniques have worked, and what are some nuances about this kid? And we always list the I used to call it the blame box, but sometimes people try to blame the chiropractor. My back's still sore. Then you go to their blame box and you see that one of their hobbies is they like yard work. Well, did you do yard work this weekend? He's like, well, yeah, I picked weeds for 6 hours. Did you ice after? Did you stretch at all? How was your hydration? So you get the blame off of you back to them. But, just having good notes in your system of what adjustments you've done in the past, we have an educational system called the Dirty Dozen, which are 12 life principles we want every new patient to know within their first month of care. And then we hammer them in after that. So we kind of have this talk track anyway, but I think it's important that people spend more time in their day one interviewing the patient and getting to know their story and getting to know all the nuances of their story. For us, that's a big, long conversation. It takes 30 minutes to do it well. Mm-hmm. And then we transition in. And by the way, I have a new patient concierge trained up to do that part. And it's so beautiful because I come back in right pre-X-ray and introduce myself. And I get 5 minutes maybe with you to do the X-ray and to talk. But I let my new patient concierge triangular communicate to me what's going on. I go, give me a Reader's Digest. Well, she's got this headache and it's coming at night and it's affecting her ear and it seems to be related to her neck. And it started with, a year ago, she had a car crash and she didn't feel bad then, but she was thinking maybe that did it. And, so you get that person talking about you in front of me. It's beautiful. That just saved me 45 minutes of my life.
Right.
That was like 8 adjustments for me,
Right.
And so a lot of these practices that don't have associates, maybe you can't afford one yet, but maybe the first step is to train up a new patient concierge, one of your team members who's got a good mind for it. And, maybe on their personality assessment test, they showed a high aptitude for understanding science terminology, things like that, and more left brain, and can, be a good interviewer. And so certain makeup, good listener, somebody who's empathetic, but also smart about science. It's hard to find those people, but they're out there. And we found a couple of good ones that we trained up. We have 3 team members trained up for 2 offices. So now those one-off re-exams and all that stuff, they can do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, but it's done well. It's not hurried. We have it all pre-set up in ChiroTouch in our notes. It's a new patient intake setup. So my team can walk through it. I can easily look at it. We talk about trauma history, family history. We want to know everything about you. And I put all that in my dashboard. So going forward, Danielle, if I don't know you from Adam, but you've been seeing Dr. Krista, and all of a sudden now you're on my table and I'm looking in going, man, I see you had a C5, C6 disc fusion surgery. I'm glad I saw that. And, Dr. Krista's been doing more drop technique and arthrostem and more just kind of micro stretching on the upper neck. And you've been responding really well to that style of adjustment. Or, you've been doing better with flexion distraction and drop and not diversified on the pelvis. Okay, good to know. So we always have, it just helps because we have an open line practice. And so people are on my table every day that I've never met before. And I like it. It's fun. But and then we have our x-rays all converted to PDF down on the dashboard. Anything I need about Danielle is right there. And I look at that, I go through that case history. I'll have looked at your x-rays already, even in the digital version in the back, because the ChiroTouch ones are JPEGs, whereas in the back I can do different angles and markings. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but I think if you're more organized, one doctor, I was doing 300 patient visits a week for 5 years by myself. And I was charging over $50 a visit. And this is in like 2007, cash. Mm-hmm. And I'm not tooting my horn. I'm just saying, if you have the right systems and the right process procedure, and you have you build the right team, the right org chart, and you give all your team members job descriptions and scorecards so you could measure their performance and give them key performance indicators so that they know their job. And then when you meet with them on a review, this is what you're being looked at on. And you can build this remarkable practice. I hired a coach to do all this. I never went at this alone. I don't know why people do that. I think they're afraid to invest that money. But if you're paying $1,000 a month for a coach, all you're expecting that coach to really do is to pay for that is to give you 1 new patient a month. And I'm telling you, a coach will give you 20 new patients a month. If you had me coaching you, I could get you 20 more new patients a month. But not only that, you would have incredible net momentum, because net momentum is a hidden metric in chiropractic. And it's this. You got your goal. I want to get to 300 a week or whatever that goal is.
Right.
And you're having a hard time getting there. So you reverse engineer it. Like, how many new patients do I need a month? So it's new patients minus how many people become inactive a month, which is what we've talked about in this call, is how to limit that number by mapping them out, getting them on plans, educating them. You're still going to have a slippage rate. People move away. People pass away. You're going to have inactives. So new patients minus inactives, new patient conversions, I should say, minus inactives equals your net momentum. And so if you want a net mo of 10 or more, you're going to grow. If you're going to grow 10 new clients per month, your total active patient list gets higher. So you can begin to look at what your goals are and be able to reverse engineer your goal and say, oh, to get to that $500,000 revenue mark, I need 30 new patients a month to account for the 10 inactives a month that are moving away, drop off. And then all of a sudden you've got a beautiful practice growing.
Yeah, you definitely have to write things down and have goals that can be measured.
Yes. Coaching.
Yeah.
Receive coaching.
I was going to say, you mentioned coaching. Are you opening the table for our listeners to find Dr. Ron and seek out your guidance?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would do a complimentary discovery call with anybody if it's through this ChiroTouch thing, just to sit and talk to. I love talking to chiropractors. And it could be a 15-minute discovery call just to find out where they're at. Maybe it's a question about the software. Maybe it's about what we talked about today. But I just feel like we're not getting this coaching in school. And a lot of doctors get out and they don't feel they can afford it. And then I'm sitting there saying, you can't not afford it. How do I spend money I don't have, And so it's scary. It's a slippery slope.
Well, we'll include a link after this episode. We'll include a link so that our listeners from this episode can connect with you.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Yeah.
I love helping chiropractors. I learned that long ago. If I could help chiropractors be more successful, I'll have a greater impact on humanity than I would by myself in my little office here.
Yep. The more positive impact I think we can have on each other, the more people in this country are going to wake up every day saying, I need to have a chiropractor as part of my, part of my own team. Because I think that's really, as a profession, where we're lacking. People wake up every day and they know they have to go to the dentist twice a year or whatever it is, or they have to go see their medical doctor once a year or whatever. But not everybody wake up and say, I need to see my chiropractor, and that has to change. So,
hey, in El Dorado Hills, that's not the case.
Exactly. So you guys have done a great job.
We're not going to let that happen. But yeah, you're right. And we have an operating mantra, and I know you believe this, Doc. And Danielle, I know you do as well. And that is that we always say that people that are under regular chiropractic care are healthier and safer than those that are not. And so that's been our operating premise. That's our drives us. That's our vision, is to reach more people, not to make more money. Money always trails true success in putting value in other people's life in the service industry. If you look at your Google reviews and you look at your impact locally, another thing is go speak. Chiropractors never get out of their four walls and go talk to people. I still, on a monthly basis, have at least one lunch and learn in a corporation for years. Some are the same ones over and over again. And I'll come and speak to them about health and wellness and, of course, chiropractic.
All right. Well, we hope today's conversation gave you practical ideas to rethink how you present and support your wellness plans. How can people contact you, Dr. Ron?
Okay, so I guess you can put my email in there somewhere, or they can reach my office and ask for me. My office number is 916-933-7022. And mention that you met Dr. Ron on a podcast and would love to pick his brain. And my team will drop everything they're doing and come find me. No, they will connect us. They are all about the mission. My team is very missional like me.
Love it. All right. Well, a big, big, big thank you, Dr. Ron, for joining us today. I really love the insights that you have, some of the stories you shared. It's always really, really helpful for chiropractors to hear what other chiropractors are doing and what their practice lives are like. So thank you so much for opening that door up and letting us peek in.
I love it. You guys are great hosts. It was really fun.
Thank you. And for our listeners, if you've got a question, a challenge, or even a win that you want to share, send it our way at chirocast@chirotouch.com, and we just might feature it in a future episode.
And if you like what you heard today, don't forget to follow, and subscribe on your favorite platform, the ChiroCast podcast. And that'll help other chiropractors find us that much more as well, which, as we've just stated, would mean a stronger community for all of us.
Thanks again for listening to ChiroCast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of ChiroCast, Insights for Modern Chiropractors, brought to you by ChiroTouch, hosted by Dr. Stephanie Brown and Danielle Javines.